Every afternoon, as they were coming home from school, the children used to go and play in the giant's garden. "How happy we are here," they cried to each other. The giant had been away for the past 7 years, visiting his friend the Cornish ogre. After the 7 years were over, and he'd said all that he had to say, for his conversation was limited, he determined to return home. The giant was back. When he returned, the children were playing in the garden. "What are you doing here?" he cried in a very gruff voice, and the children ran away. "My own garden is my own garden," said the giant. "Anyone can understand that, and I will allow no one to play in it but myself." So he built a high wall around it and raised a notice board to keep everybody else out. The poor children now had nowhere else to play. They used to wander around the high wall and talk about the beautiful garden inside. "How happy we were there," they said to each other. The spring came, and all over the country there were little blossoms and little birds. Only in the garden of the selfish giant was it still winter. "I cannot understand why spring is so late in coming," said the selfish giant, as he sat and he looked out over his cold garden. "I hope there will be a change in the weather." One morning, the giant was lying awake in bed when he heard some lovely music. It was a little linnet singing outside in the garden. It seemed to him to be the most beautiful thing in the world. "I believe that spring has come at last," said the giant as he jumped out of bed and looked out of the window. He saw the most wonderful sight. Through a hole in the wall, the children had crept and began to play in the garden. They were like little flowers looking up through the grass and laughing. Only in one corner, it was still winter. In it stood a little boy crying bitterly. He couldn't reach up to sit in the tree's branches. The giant's heart melted as he looked out. "How selfish I have been. Now I know why the spring wouldn't come here. I shall put that little boy at the top of the tree, and I will knock down that wall. My garden shall be the children's playground forever. The garden is yours now, children." All day long they played, and in the evening they played the giant goodbye. Every afternoon when school was over, the children would come and play in the garden, but the little boy was never seen again. The giant was kind to all the children. Years went by, and he grew old and feeble. He watched the children and admired his garden. One day, the little boy returned. He was an angel, come to take the giant to heaven. When the children ran in that afternoon, they found the giant at peace and covered in blossoms from his garden.